All right, we're going to talk about finding um, how many deductions are made from someone's pay, as well as what their net pay will be. Okay, so the net pay that someone earns, that means how much is left after you've deducted all of these taxes and insurances. Okay, so net pay is the gross pay minus any deductions that are made. Okay. Now, gross pay means your pay right up front. So if you're paid $10 an hour for 5 hours, 10 times 5, $50. That's your gross pay. But we all know, if you've ever got a paycheck, that that's not always what you get. There's deductions, things that are deducted, taxes, sometimes health insurance, union dues, things like that. So let's take a look at a question. Here's Rihanna Boggs. She's an interior fabricator for a large design firm. She is single and claims one allowance. Now, what that does is that changes the amount that's deducted for her federal income tax. Okay, and for that, we are going to use the table down here. Each week she pays $34 for medical insurance. Okay, so here are her deductions. She pays $16 for union dues, $12 on stock options. Okay, so from her weekly pay, each of those things is deducted. Her gross pay, so her pay before any of those are made, is $510. What's her total net pay for the week? Okay, remember you must also calculate the Social Security, the Medicare, and state taxes using the rates shown and subtract those from the gross pay also. Okay, so here is our 3 taxes, and we also have this federal income tax, okay, that we will use the table to find. Okay, so her gross pay is $510. Let's find each of these taxes. I'm going to start with the table. So 510, you look at the side of the table over here. It says if your wages are, and this is for a single person, which it said she was. Okay, so if your wages are between 5 and 510, 510 and 520, 520 and 530. So you find the range of pay here. So if you get paid at least 500 but less than 510, these are the numbers you would use for your federal income tax. And here's our numbers here. The numbers at the top mean how many allowances you have. So she is single and claims 1 allowance. She makes $510. So we're actually going to use this column right here. Okay? Because notice up here it said less than 510 would be here. But here we get from 510 to anything less than 520. This is the range we're in. If she made like $535, we would go here because 535 is between 530 and 540. But here's our column. We're going to go over to where it says 1 allowance. So there's the 1 allowance. So we look down from there and over from our income, and $53. That's going to be her federal income tax that we got from the table. Okay, so that's a deduction. She also had this $34 for medical insurance, $16 for union dues, $12 for stock options. So I'm just totaling all of these things that are going to be coming out of her paycheck over here. We also have these 3 values that have to come out. Okay, Social Security, Medicare, and state tax. Now to find those, you're going to take the tax rate times her weekly pay. So her pay was $510. The tax rate for Social Security is 6.2%. Move the decimal over 2 places, so we get 0.62, and multiply by her gross pay. That gives me $31.62. So there's another deduction. I'm going to put that on my list here of what I'm totaling up. All right, next I'm going to find the Medicare tax. It's 1.45% of her income. So I move the decimal 2 places to the left. That gives me 0.0145, and I multiply that again by her gross pay. That gives me $7 and 0.395 rounds to 40. Okay, and finally, we have our state tax down here. It's at 2%. So again, you move the decimal 2 places to the left. That would give you 0.02 times her pay of $510 is $10.20. Okay, so I'm going to put those two amounts down there on my list also. Okay, so I had the Medicare tax of $7.40 and then our state tax of $10.20. Okay, my next job is to total all of these deductions. These are all of the things that are going to be taken out of her paycheck. So we're going to add them all together. So 53 plus 34 plus 16 plus 12 plus 31.62 plus $7.40 plus $10.20. That gives us a total of $164.22. Okay, that's what's being deducted from her pay. They want to know what is the total net pay for the week. And again, net pay is your pay that's left after you remove the deductions. So for her net pay, we take her gross pay, which was $510, and we subtract those deductions, which came to altogether was $164.22. So we're going to take 510 minus 164.22 is $345.78. Okay, so that would be her pay. $345.75 is the net pay that she would get to take home. Okay, we're going to do one more that is similar to that. Okay, so here's Rahim Obert. He is employed in accounts receivable department and he receives $13.50 per hour. His pay period is 30 hours a week. He is single and claims 2 allowances. Now this part right here, single and claims 2 allowances, that is for our federal income tax table down here. Okay, that tells us where to go on that table. First, however, we need to find out how much his gross pay is. In the last one, it told us his gross pay. And here it just tells us what his hourly pay is and how many hours he works each week. So remember, to find his pay, we would take his hourly pay, $13.50, times, okay, this is our gross pay, I guess I should label it, times the number of hours he works. So we have $13.50 times 38 is $513. Okay, so that's his gross pay, and we need to know his gross pay so we can calculate all of these taxes. And it says Obert pays $80 for medical insurance, including federal withholding, state tax, Social Security, Medicare, and insurance. What is the total amount of deductions? So this time we're not finding the net pay. They just want to know how much total is deducted from his pay. So let's calculate each thing. So far, he's paying insurance of $80. He is getting paid $513 gross pay, and he is single with 2 allowances. So let's come down here to our chart and find out what the federal withholding will be. So his pay is $513, so we look on the chart. $513 is between $510 and $520. So we're on this line right here. He had 2 allowances, so we go over until we get to the column that says 2 allowances right here. And there's our amount that he will be paying that will be deducted. And that is $43. Okay, let's continue our total. We need to find these three taxes: Social Security, Medicare, and state. Again, Social Security, it says is a tax rate of 6.2%. So move your decimal 2 places to the left and multiply by his pay of $513. That gives us a deduction of $31.81 if I round. Okay, so I'm going to put that. That's part of my total. Next, I'm going to find the Medicare tax. It's 1.45%. If I move my decimal 2 places to the left, I get 0.0145. Multiply by that gross pay. And I get $7.44. Add that to my total down here. Okay, this is my deductions over here. I have one more that they mentioned, and that is my state tax. It's at 2%. Move the decimal 2 places to the left, that gives me 0.02, and multiply by his pay of $513. And it is $10.26. So that is my last deduction that they mentioned. All they mentioned was insurance and then our taxes, and we have them all. We have the tax from the tax table, and we have these three that we calculated. So all they wanted was the total of the deductions, so let's total those up. Let's add 80 plus 43 plus 31.81 plus $7.44 plus $10.26. And that gives me a total of $172.51 that's being deducted. Now, if they wanted the net pay, I would go ahead and subtract that from his gross pay. But all they wanted to know was what are the total deductions, and there we have it right there.